support.
Tells you how you can use that to your real estate advantage. And now, here's your host, Dick Barr.
And welcome back, Lake County. This is Dick Barr, your host of Unlocking Lake County, here on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Here, my beautiful co-host, Christin Kaufman. Say hello.
Hello, everybody.
And then back in the studio from a trip abroad is Sly Marinca.
Hello, everybody.
We missed you, Sly, last week. We missed you a lot.
We did.
Aw, thank you. It's good to be missed, and I missed you guys as well.
Well, we actually only missed your mortgage quotes. But, I'm just kidding. Energy's definitely different when you're not here.
It is.
Yeah, so it's a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, we make a good group.
I agree.
Absolutely. Anyway, so who is tired?
Not me. I'm doing
Sick
great.
and tired of seeing all this bickering online between people and neighbors and friends and neighborhood people.
The memes have got to stop. I am so sick and tired of seeing these memes and then people arguing about them and this person saying this and this person saying that. It's too much.
I gotta be honest. I don't really engage in them.
I don't either, but just seeing them is infuriating.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I kind of just choose to not let it infuriate me at this point, honestly.
I need to do better.
I'd see. Well, I went through a lot of that when COVID became a really big deal and all the shutdowns were happening and people had a lot of really large opinions regardless of where they landed.
Yeah.
And that became too much for me. I actually had gotten to the point where I deleted all of my social media during the shutdown and was just choosing to like go on walks every single day and just be really involved with my kid. I had kind of like challenged myself, like I always told myself that if I had more time, I would do this, this, and this. And so I was like, okay, well, I have nothing but time now, so I better pony up and do all the things I said I would do. So I completely disengaged, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it ended up laying the groundwork for some really good personal habits when it came to my online presence.
Sure.
Because when I did finally go back, I think it was about maybe a year and a half later, when I did finally make my way back, I had completely like rewired the way that I felt about social media. And so even when I went back, it was completely different. Like my approach was different. I was no longer oversharing. I wasn't engaging in conversations that weren't benefiting me on the daily, that weren't making me feel good, or I wasn't learning anything from. So I was no longer participating in like online arguments or comments with strangers that were annoying me or things like that. So it became really easy for me to just undo those habits, and they've stuck with me to this day. So now when I see stuff online that would have otherwise upset me, I'm able to just kind of go, that's how they choose to see the world, huh? Okay. And I just sort of move on, which is really nice. But I do know that it can really engage a lot of people. And I don't know if you guys had seen the article, but something in the realm of like the algorithm does that on purpose. Like it shows you things online, specifically on I don't know if I'm supposed to say the name.
The book.
Yeah, something like that, right? Yeah.
I think you could say that.
I can say Facebook? Okay, great. Well,
The worst.
specifically something on Facebook where the algorithm purposefully shows you content that it knows that you will not be happy seeing because you're more likely to engage in it and stay longer and stay in the comments and continue arguing with people. So once I read that, I was like, that's not going to fly with me. So I anytime I see something that would otherwise upset me, I purposefully like unfollow, or I'll click like not relevant, or whatever that website's version of like, don't show me this again. I'll just click it right away. Like, nope, no thanks. I'm not doing this.
Yeah. Very smart of you, because it's, I'm getting ready to probably do something similar. I did a purge a few years ago about people that were super negative, and like, I just kind of hid them. I didn't want to unfriend people because that's not nice, but I definitely got, to the point where I'm like, okay, enough's enough. And I'm about to do that again with a whole new group of people because it's just nasty.
Yeah. Well, the hard part is even when you do it with people that that you're friends with on any of those social media sites, like you'll still see like advertised content or just public shared content on accounts that have a lot of followers, right? The suggested content. And I find that the more people you delete or unfollow, the more unsolicited content ends up on your feed to just continue keeping you engaged. So it's really difficult to get away from the stuff that just kind of sucks you in.
And I used to just go past it, but not anymore. Now I unfollow it. I click that little X button and say, I don't like this. Why? Because the content is garbage or whatever. I'm just like, no, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah. So,
and you know who's most affected by this? We're adults. We've been through the ringer. We know how to react to stuff. Kids are being subject to this kind of psychological manipulation. They're witness to it, and they're fed through this scientifically based marketing algorithm that intentionally makes them distressed in order to keep them engaged and clicking. That's a problem.
Yeah, big time.
Absolutely.
You think we're bad? We didn't grow up with this.
Yeah.
Our kids are subject to this. They're, as soon as they're 13, technically they can be on Facebook. But kids, my kids were on Facebook before that. They just put in the fake birthdays, and they were looking at stuff. But we locked them down. You couldn't have friends outside of, my wife and I and their siblings and cousins and stuff.
Yeah.
But they're out there. And if not Facebook, there's other platforms.
Oh,
Of
sure.
course.
There's others that I've never even dreamed start, like Snapchat. I don't know what that is.
All the young kids, that's what they're... Facebook is for old people now. Like, youngsters, they don't even...
Youngsters. I think even the word youngsters is for old people.
Oh, 100%. I don't know what the term is, but
That's so funny.
we're definitely Facebook.
I have all of them. I've had Snapchat. I think ever since it started. That was years.
Well, you're a
10
youngster.
Years ago. Yeah, not really. I'm 35. I'm like somewhere in the middle, But Snapchat started like 10 years ago, I think. So before it even had filters that you could use for your face to turn yourself into funny things, it was just a silly way to communicate with your friends and have it immediately erased so there was no evidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, I never understood because there's always evidence.
Yeah.
Yes, there's not technical digital evidence, but if you have another phone, you can videotape the screen, and they don't know you're doing it. They don't know you're screenshotting it. So I think they're all dangerous, and I think what we're seeing now is even adults have no sense of decorum with each other.
Yep.
It's totally. It's like people are losing their humanity. People aren't losing their humanity. Each side of the political discourse is accusing the other side of no humanity. And I've never seen that happen more in my life than what's happening right now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree totally. And there's no innocent parties. It's not like one side's better than the other when it comes to that. I'm seeing it too, where people that I would never have thought would get into some of these discourses and say some of the things that they're saying and dehumanizing the way they are. And it's like, you're accusing someone of doing something that you're kind of doing yourself.
Yeah.
So
and that's
no fun.
The funny part about political discourse, there's so much hypocrisy on both sides of it. Is you're doing this. Oh yeah, well you're exactly doing the same thing right now.
Right.
And then seeing the way no one retreats from it. There's no one trying to find common ground. It's here's a meme to prove that you're stupid, ignorant, uneducated, uninformed, weird, whatever you have. And it's just being flat. And it's going all the way to the top.
Yeah,
You're seeing these types of things being broadcast by the top of the tickets. And I've never been more disgusted in my life.
Same. I feel the exact same way.
Okay, so that's it.
That was fun.
Let's go.
Nice light topic.
I know, right? Well, I think it's got to be said. I think more people got to start saying it, and I think we have to. You know what's funny? I've got a political background, and one of the first things they taught us is that outrage sells, and outrage gets votes. And, so what we see now is so much fake moral outrage, things that people pretend are bad, but they're not necessarily bad. And even if they were necessarily undesirable, it takes away from the actual policy discussions. And that's what we're missing right now. We're not having conversations about what are the actual issues. We're just arguing about personalities right now on both sides.
Right.
And we are probably the least informed electorate in the past 50 years.
Wow, that's scary.
As far as what are we voting for?
Right.
What issues are we voting for?
Which, if you think about, we should be the most educated with all of the knowledge we have at our fingertips on your phone, the access to information that you have.
But it's also so hard to navigate what's information and what's misinformation these days. Because there's so much distrust in every form of information that you could possibly find it from. And if you're talking to someone who has a differing opinion than you, it doesn't matter where you got your information from, it's fake.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter. So it's really hard to even navigate how to inform yourself properly these days.
I was in a conversation. I call it a conversation, but it was an all-out war. But I was on a conversation on a friend's wall, and I had posted a fact, and the person said, "That's fake news." And I said, oh, really? It's Reuters. I don't think Reuters is really on the top list of considered fake news. I don't care which side you're on.
Yeah.
Reuters and AP pretty much down the middle. Maybe a little bit of a bend one way or another. But it's like, come on. Just because it's negative to your argument or ideology, it doesn't automatically make it negative fake news. So... Anyway, I do want to get into some real estate because we're seeing some changes here. As most of you know who are longtime listeners, next week August 17th marks the big change. With the National Association of Realtors. And some sweeping reforms are coming in. And as we look online, we're seeing all kinds of sky is falling, Chicken Little commentary. The reality is my belief is things are not going to change that much. I think status quo is going to probably maintain. I do have some concerns about buyer representation. I have concerns about certain situations where buyers might go into a transaction unrepresented, which could be, detrimental to their interests. When they think they're going to save money by going straight to a listing broker. But we'll see. I think we're going to see probably a couple of years of hashing this out before they might look at it and say, oh, wait, way more damage than good is being caused by this. The funny thing about the lawsuit is, and for those who don't know, so a group of sellers got together with a couple of attorneys and they had a class action lawsuit. And they said it was unfair that sellers pay the listing agent and the buyer's agent. It's called cooperative compensation. And it's been the way we've done business for 100 years. And there's all kinds of reasons for it. But it used to be both listing agent and buyer's agent, technically in fiduciary responsibility, was aimed at the seller. But most states in the past 2 decades have switched the laws. So the buyer's agent's fiduciary responsibility is the buyer.
Yeah.
And what's funny about that is 20, 30 years ago in Illinois, if you were a buyer's agent and you negotiated against the seller, you technically broke your fiduciary duty because your duty was to the seller. But as laws correctly changed, they gave buyer's agency, and now we have designated agency, so buyer's agent has a fiduciary responsibility to protect the buyer. That was good for everyone.
Yeah.
It created an opportunity where buyers can buy the house. The cost of their representation was built into the purchase price, and they were fully represented by an agent who represented their interest, period, end of story. And now with this, so there are all kinds of benefits to the market for having this. In the lawsuit, the judge ruled, and this was a lawsuit out of Missouri, by the way, the judge ruled that the National Association nor any of the defendant brokers could argue benefit to the public as a defense to the way we've always transacted business. They said the arrangement is a de facto violation of law, therefore benefit to the public can't be construed. And which is funny because, you know, the National Association of Realtors is the largest lobby in the country. You know, there's 1.5 million members. And they've, but this was kind of an attack from the Department of Justice, because the Department of Justice, they don't want the coupling of commissions between listing brokers and buyers brokers. They want buyers paying out of their pocket for representation or going unrepresented. And so that's kind of the future of where we're going. Buyers will be in a position where they will be either paying out of pocket for that, where the seller might reimburse as a closing cost concession, or they'll be paying out of pocket for their representation, or they'll be going unrepresented. And as Christin, you know, buyer representation is immensely important for so many different reasons.
Absolutely.
Whether it be price, negotiations, dealing with inspection issues, even about understanding what the value of a home is.
Yeah.
If I'm a listing broker, and you come to me and you say you want to buy the house direct from me, and my seller does not allow me to be a dual agent, I can't inform you. I can't guide you. I can barely even have a conversation with you legally, because that would imply, because Illinois has implied agency. So as soon as I start talking to you about values, I am now an implied agent, and therefore we can't work. The only way that works, if the buyer comes to the listing broker, literally writes their own contract, can't ask any questions, because we can't. The only thing we can answer would be certain facts. We used to have a thing called ministerial facts, which are number of bedrooms, price, you know, things that didn't imply or mean anything other than the actual facts. Yeah. Illinois did away with ministerial facts back in, I think, 2010 is when we got rid of that. At least it was in the 2010 CE classes. I think they got rid of it in the 2000 class, but none of us really knew it until 2010 when they were teaching it in the continuing ed courses. So that buyer going at it literally on their own, that scares me.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I've used this analogy many times, and I will continue to use it until the day this is no longer an issue that we need to talk about. Have you ever went and purchased a car and felt like you drove off the lot with the best possible deal? Probably not, right? Unless you are an experienced negotiator and you have experience in car sales and you know exactly what you can do and say to make something work out your way, because you're not being represented. Even though you have a salesperson there to help you purchase the car, they're not there to represent your best interest. They are there to represent the company's best interest and to make the sale at however they need to make it happen. And I know that car sales is a little bit different than home sale. However, it's still the same concept that if you are not hiring someone to be there to represent your best interests and to negotiate on your behalf because they have experience in negotiation and experience in that field, you're very likely not going to get the best deal. And at the very least, you're not going to walk away feeling like you had the best deal.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. So that said, I'm going to get into the Market Minute. This is as we're nearing the end of summer. Actually, you could somewhat argue that summer's already over. My kids started going back to school already.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I think mine's next week.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
High school.
Yeah, high school. I saw a bunch of people posting their, first day of freshman year, and then they always post the first day of kindergarten. I love those things.
I have a first grader.
I enjoy it.
I have a first grader going into school this year, and the idea that she's ever going to be in high school seems just completely unrealistic to me. Like, that feels just absolutely not in the car. Like, it's never going to happen.
Right.
And I'm told by everyone, just blink and it'll happen. Yeah. And I believe it now, because even just the idea that she's going into first grade, I'm like, aren't we still in kindergarten? Like, when did this happen? It's crazy.
Yep, exactly.
Stay on top of the market with Dick Barr's Market Minute.
Dick Barr's Market Minute.
Welcome back. This is Dick Barr, your host of Unlocking Lake County, here with this week's Market Minute for Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. We've reached the 200 number. That's 200 active properties available in the region. That's the highest it's been all year since we've been tracking. We've got 44 new listings this week, which is down from 63 the prior week. We had 55 properties go into contract this week. That's up from the 42 the prior week. 173 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days, up from 117 in the prior. And the days on market average, still pretty good, 21 days, with a 1-month supply of inventory. Lowest priced home sold in the area was $60,000, with the highest priced of $899,000. Highest active, still $4.9 million, and a median price for the Northwest Lake County region, $369,000. Now on over to Antioch, where we break it down a little bit more, where they're sitting on 37 active properties on the market. 4 new listings this week. Big drop from last week, where there was 11. 11 homes went under contract this past week, slightly up from the 9 the prior week. 35 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days, about double last month, where it was 18. 30 days is the days on market average. That's the highest in the region, with just under a month's supply of inventory. Lowest price was $85,000, high of $899,000. Highest active price, $2.3 million, and a median home sale price of $350,000. Now on over to Volo, Fox Lake, and Ingleside, where they're sitting on 29 active properties. 7 new listings this week, down from 10 the prior. 7 homes have gone under contract in the past 7 days, up from 4 the prior. And 12 homes have gone under contract in the past month, up from 10 the prior month. 26 days on market is the average market time, with a 1.8 month supply of inventory, and that is the highest in the region for month supply. And 158,000 is the lowest price sold home, and 450 is the high, with 1.7 million is the highest active. 320,000 is the median sales price. Now on over to Grays Lake, Gages Lake, Haynesville, Third Lake, and Wildwood, where they're sitting on 34 active properties. 10 new listings this week, down from 13 the prior. 9 homes have gone under contract in the past 7 days, about the same as the 10 last week. And 28 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days, up from 18 in the prior 30. 22 days on market is the market average, and a 0.9 month supply of inventory. 130,000 is the lowest price home sold, with a 600,000 at the high end. 977,000 is the highest active, with a $362,000 median purchase price. Now on over to Gurnee, Wadsworth, and Old Mill Creek, where they're sitting on 42 active properties. That's big. That's the highest in the region. And it's funny, Gurnee, 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, was sitting on like 3 active.
I remember that.
Yeah,
we were laughing about it.
We're like, Gurnee, give us your listings.
Yeah,
right.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're sitting on more than 10 times that amount.
Mm-hmm. They're like, Lake County, buy our listings.
Yeah.
6 new properties have hit the market, and this week compared to 6 the last week. 7 homes have gone into contract this week, down from 9 the prior week, and 28 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days, about double the prior month, where there's only 15. 22 days on market is the average, with a 1.8 month supply of inventory, and that's tied with Volo and Fox Lake for the highest month supply of inventory. 220,000 is the lowest priced home sold, and 690,000. I did put it on Do Not Disturb, by the way. I did when it beeped the last time. I don't know why it did that. Sometimes if someone calls twice, It'll break the do not disturb. I think I've got that setting going on, so that person might have called twice. 690 is the highest price sold, with a 4.9 million is the highest active. 460,000 is the median sales price. Now to our backyard of Lindenhurst and Lake Villa, where we're sitting on 38 active properties. 6 new listings this week only, down from 16 the prior week. But 15 homes have gone under contract the past 7 days, a big jump from 3 the prior 7. 28 homes under contract in the past 30 days, up from 24 the prior, and a days on market average of only 15, and not quite the lowest. Round Lake is actually the lowest. We'll get to that next. And a 0.9 month supply of inventory. Lowest priced home sold is 155,000 with a high of 587 and a 4.5 million being the highest active property. Median sales price is $369,000. Now we're going to finish off with Round Lake area, where they're sitting on 20 active listings. That's the lowest in the area. 11 new listings this week, up from 7 the prior. 6 homes have gone under contract in the past 7 days, slightly down from the 7 in the prior. And under contract in the past 30 days was 36, highest in the region, and that was compared to 26 the prior month. Days on market average in the Round Lake is only 13 days, the lowest in the region, with a 0.6 month supply of inventory. 60,000 is the lowest priced home sold, with a high of 505,000 and a highest active price of just under 500,000, with a median sales price of $325,000. Okay, guys, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it looks like things are continuing to kind of, I wouldn't say slow down, because there's still a huge demand, but supply is increasing as well. So, we're going to see things, I think, continue to kind of level out. It's nowhere near a buyer's market or anything like that. We know that, but it's maybe starting to become a little bit less of a seller's market than it was, where, for instance, for me, I've seen, even while I was gone, clients that just got pre-approved are getting their first and second offers accepted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird, because it's normally like, all right, you're going to need to put, bids on 50 different houses before you actually get one.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had 2 buyers in the last, while I was gone, that went under contract right away. So haven't seen that in a while.
That's awesome. That's a testament to Melissa. She's doing a great job for you
in the office.
fantastic.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that the mindset of the buyers have been shifting a little bit.
Oh, yeah? How so?
Absolutely. So from last year compared to this year, for example, last year, every buyer that we worked with, it was, how can I get into this house? How can I get an offer accepted? How can I get this? How can I make this happen? It's so competitive. And now I'm seeing less of that question being asked at all, and a lot more of, is this house worth what they're asking, do you think?
Yeah.
That question's being asked a lot, instead of how much above asking do you think I need to offer to get my offer accepted?
Right.
So a lot of, is this house worth what it's being listed at? I don't know. It doesn't really seem like it. Like, that's a lot of money for that now. There's a lot of, well, can we look at some other properties and come back to this one? Which that was never even remotely a question last year, because they knew the answer was no. It's now or never, get in. So I'm seeing buyers just have a lot more discernment and willingness to be patient and find the right thing, instead of just trying to jump into anything. Which
is such a benefit to the buyers.
Absolutely, 100%.
Having options is a beautiful thing, and for the first time in a long time, we're starting to see significant good options. I had an interesting story with a buyer. It just came to a head this past week. I got a text from a buyer, and a property that we had made an offer on, I don't know, a month or 2 ago. We made a strong cash offer. And she had texted me and said, hey, can you look into this for me? The sales price was $7,000 less than our cash offer. What happened? So, because, once that property closes, now the sales price is public record, and they saw what the sales price was. So I said, oh, yeah, well, let me check. Maybe it was an appraisal issue. Sometimes, a contract price will come down. For appraisal reasons. It happens. But the first thing I always check to see if the listing office is also the selling office, right? Did something unscrupulous happen? And I was very happy to see that was not the case
thank
here.
Goodness.
Yeah.
And you know what? To be honest with you, I know that listing agent so well. I know they wouldn't do anything unscrupulous. So I should have known that without even checking.
Still got to check.
Still got to check. Still got to check.
Keep them honest. Keep them honest.
Right. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, here's the situation. My client noticed that the house sold for less than we offered and we had a cash offer. Can you provide some feedback? Because they're looking for some education here. Like, what could they have done differently? And his response was, get this. The seller chose an offer because of one of the buyer love letters.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh,
they were swayed by the story in the buyer love letter. Now, what's funny is when I'm working with a seller, I say, no, we can't have any buyer love letters because I don't want my seller making emotional decisions on a financial transaction, right?
Yeah.
But in this situation, because buyer love letters are so BS.
Right. Oh, yeah. They could put anything in there.
They always do. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you, wrote the buyer love letter for your buyer, right?
Or had AI do it.
Yeah.
Right, have AI do it, right? Sellers, you should always put your buyer love letter through an AI checker to see if ChatGPT wrote it.
Yep.
But that was the first time I'd ever experienced that.
Yeah.
Learning experience. And now my buyer's like, well, can we do that? Well, yes, of course. We can. Not all listings will allow them. We don't allow them on our listings. We say it right. There's actually a field in the listing agreement that says no buyer love letters because there's also a fair housing component to that.
Yeah.
What if the buyer puts all kinds of protected class related stuff in that letter, and then the seller accepts it, and then somehow conversations are had with other people, and then they look at that and it says, oh, wait a second. So I don't know, so you're this many years old, you're this gender, and you're this religion. Right. And the buyer who didn't get it is not that religion or gender or whatever. And says, oh, well, there's a fair housing violation.
Absolutely.
Probably wasn't. But easy.
But now it opens you up to it.
Now it opens you up to it.
We
So that's
have
why we
a
don't want to do
listener
it.
comment who's chiming in. We've got our friend Chris Schoenberger watching us right now.
Hey, Chris.
He's been commenting on and off about a couple of things that we've been talking about. He agrees with us that buying a car, he said he just purchased 2 cars, and that even though he knows he has a great salesperson that he works through, he still doesn't know for a fact that he got the best deal possible, and that it'd be great to have someone represent you. He has also commented that he did a house without an agent once, ... Never again. They need someone to represent car buyers as well. But he also just commented on the fact that he had gotten buyer love letters when he sold his house, and he said it was brutal receiving them.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're guilt trips, if nothing else.
Totally.
Right.
100%.
Pick me.
They tug at your
why
heartstrings.
You should pick me.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
I appreciate that, Chris. Thanks for listening, too. And for participating.
Yes, Kristen. We love that.
Of course.
Okay, so we're looks like we're just about at the half hour. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this.
Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr will return in just a few moments after these important messages. Don't touch that dial.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder and Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder and Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. At the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
This is Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Your favorite show right here on 98.3 FM.
98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder and Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder and Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder and Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder and Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty,
offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. The Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
With Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. The Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
This is Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Your favorite show right here on 98.3 FM.
98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
Unlocking Lake County
98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder and Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder and Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. At the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
With Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across the
front. But if you take the time to be informed, you can greatly reduce your risk. This from Oganoff Auction Service in Round Lake, working to make our community even better. Remember, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Okay, here we are back. Sorry, we went a little bit longer on that commercial break than we usually do. We played 3 songs. I usually do 2. But welcome back. This is Dick Barr, your host of Unlocking Lake County, back in the studio with Christin Kaufman.
Hey, hey.
And Sly Marinca.
Hello.
And we, because we took so much time there, we're going to get a jump real quick to get going on our next bit, because we've missed your mortgage minute, Sly, and I got a fever, and the only prescription is more Mortgage Minute.
Yes.
Here is the Mortgage Minute with Sly Marinca and Cross Country Mortgage on Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. Super happy to be home. I was out of the country for about 10 days on an awesome trip. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but good to be back. No place like home. So while I was gone, there were definitely some fireworks in the markets. There was a day where the stock market really tanked pretty good. It's since rebounded a little bit, but the markets are all intertwined. And a lot of what we've been talking about is really starting to come into fruition. I don't know if you remember, I've been kind of mentioning that, rates are looking like they're going to come down as inflation starts to cool. And that's kind of what we've been seeing. With inflation levels for July falling for the first time since 2021 to below 3%.
Nice.
Remember, the Fed's target is 2%, but we'll take 2.9%.
2.9 is fine.
Yep, for now, and trending downward continually. Now, the reasons behind that we may not like because it's looking recessionary. In fact, just yesterday, I don't know if you caught Home Depot issuing warnings about future earnings to their investors. And Home Depot's been a pretty good gauge of economic activity.
Yeah.
So when people are not spending money, they're not doing home improvement projects, they're not purchasing the power tools, they're not purchasing lumber, they're not purchasing whatever. That's kind of a gauge of the overall economy.
And they're not hiring people who do all those things
Correct.
either.
Correct. Yeah. So currently, the 30-year fixed average is sitting at 6.49%. When I was here 2 weeks ago, it was right around, if I remember correctly, 6.87%. Which 2 weeks before that, it was at 7.2%.
So what was the current number again?
6.49 is the national average. So in about a 45-ish day window, a month and a half, we've seen a 0.75% drop in rates.
Wow. I'd like you to go away to the Maldives again, Sly.
Yes, yeah, no kidding. No problem. I'd love to do that. The 10-year, the 10-year Treasury yield again, huge, drop from a couple of weeks ago. Down to 3.822%, which it was 4.22% 2 weeks ago when I was here. So, we're seeing some of these numbers come back in line. Inflation looks like it's definitely cool. Don't count food costs and inflation, and they don't count some of the other things that everybody needs. But nevertheless,
is housing included in the core?
Shelter costs are not.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, some of those things are kind of like important, obviously. But
so only like bananas and grapefruit.
Yeah, core inflation is coming down. That's what we're focusing on today. We're not going to...
Not real inflation.
Yeah, not true inflation, right? But the numbers that are reported are in line and moving in the right direction, which is causing mortgage rates to come down, which is getting people, kind of excited. Our buyers are, wow, really? We're at 6.5%. It's like, yeah, I pre-approved you, 6 months ago, and you were at 7.5%, or whatever. You haven't been able to find a house. In fact, I just had a lady today that I had to redo her pre-approval, and I had done it in January, and it said 7.75% on her original pre-approval from January.
Wow.
So that's a big difference, right? Yeah. That's a 1.25 difference from where we were, late. And her pre-approval was actually, the original one was even before that. So
now, with the rates having dropped the way that they have, has your office started to notice some refinancing inquiries, or are we not quite there yet?
Absolutely. So that's actually, now that we got the numbers out of the way, that's actually what I did want to talk about just for a little bit today. Yes, we are starting to get inquiries, and a lot of it is, when is the right time to refinance? Obviously, we have to take a look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
You have to, factor in, obviously current rates, current terms versus, what you can get. And there's no really like specific answer. Some people target 0.5%. So if I'm at 7.25 and I could get 6.75, that's enough for me to make a decision to refinance. But you have to weigh the costs.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, be very careful if you're talking to online lenders. They say no cost refinance. They may mean no out-of-pocket costs, but they'll roll it into your mortgage. So your principal balance on your loan is going to increase. So just be very careful. Always, like I said, like we've said many times, talk to a local professional if you're interested in doing that. And so timing-wise, too, in Lake County, taxes are paid twice a year. And the second installment, the first installment's in June, the second installment is in September. If you have an escrow account and you want to refinance, after the second installment has been paid is typically when you're going to need to come up with the least amount of money to fund your escrow account. So if you're planning on rolling in costs, usually around September, October is a good time to do that. The other problem, taxes, as we know, in Lake County with the quadrennial assessment, a lot of people's taxes shot way up. So after the second tax bill is paid, that's typically when lenders will do their escrow analysis, and everyone's going to get these nice letters in the mail that say, hey, you're $3,000 short in your escrow account because your taxes and insurance went up. We now have to collect it retro for this year and also going forward. Ooh. So it's actually $6,000 you need to make it right. We'll just tack it onto your mortgage payment. at $500 extra a month.
Yeah.
So usually when that happens, people call and they're like, I don't want to pay an extra $500 a month. What are the current rates? And if we could lower your rate and start off right, you could always, if you have the equity, roll that $5,000 basically into your loan so that you're not coming up with a huge chunk of change out of pocket or paying an extra $500 a month. Always a good time to look into that. But that's obviously only if you bought in the last year or two. If you're sitting like most of us at 3-4%, you're probably just gonna have to suck it up and pay. Taxes and insurance go up, and it's I get, my phone goes crazy October, November with people. You said my rate was a fixed rate. Well, yeah, your rate is a fixed rate, but your taxes aren't. That's the part that I can't control that part. And, and I've had people yell at me, and it's like, I don't control that. I'm sorry.
I'm
I
not
hate
the tax man.
Right. So things to do to prepare for refinancing. Obviously, credit score is huge. In any time you do any kind of financing, whether you're buying a car, whether you're applying for a credit card, when you're looking to refinance, your lender's very likely going to have to pull a new credit report unless you're doing a streamlined VA loan, IRRL loan, or a streamlined FHA loan. In some of those cases, we don't pull a credit report. We just make sure you've been making your mortgage payment on time. But if you're doing a regular refinance, there's a good chance your lender is going to have to pull your credit. Obviously, the higher your credit score, the better terms you get, just like with anything else. So in preparation, if you're planning, if you bought a home in the last year or two and you're thinking, all right, now's the time, I'm going to get from 7.5% to 6.5%, I would lower your balances on your existing trade lines, limit new trade lines, limit inquiries, because even like sometimes if you just pay down the balance on a credit card, to get it to below the 50% ratio or 30% ratio, you'll see your scores shoot up quickly. And just by doing something like that, you could really, really improve your long-term interest rate on a 30-year mortgage.
Now, before they go crazy, just paying everything down, aren't there certain debts that are better to pay down versus others?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's basically revolving debt is what you want to focus on. Paying off car loans can actually, installment loans, whether it's a car loan or student loan, or it can actually hurt you.
It did, yeah. I just finished off paying my student loans 2 weeks ago, and it closed out, and my credit score went down a little bit.
You lose that history
because I paid it off.
Isn't that so silly to think about?
So if you're not sure, talk to a professional. Ask him which ones to pay down.
Talk to a professional, always, just to make sure you're not shooting yourself in the foot. And lowering your score inadvertently. Yeah. So getting your credit score up as high as possible is awesome. Saving, because again, a lot of lenders will tell you no closing costs, and they're just rolling it into your loan. That's an option if you have the equity, right? But let's say you bought a house and put very little down a year ago, and you've just been making regular payments on your mortgage. It's very likely your balance is going to be similar to what you originally purchased, because at the beginning of the loan, most of your payment's interest. You're not really paying down your principal a lot. So you may not be able to roll in the equity if your home value hasn't gone up. So save. Put some money aside, for the next month or two to cover any out-of-pocket closing costs if there are any, to refund your escrow account. The other thing about the escrow account, if you don't have an escrow account shortage, let's say your escrow account is good, typically within 30 days of closing, you will get reimbursed from your current lender for whatever the balance is in your escrow account. Now, if it's negative, you're going to owe at the closing when you get your payoff letter. So just a couple tips and tricks. Make sure you save, get your credit score as high as possible. And I would say 0.5% is where to start kind of thinking about it. A full percent is kind of a no-brainer. So if you could save a full percent on your mortgage. Now, I have a lot of clients that are like, well, what's the bottom going to be? Because we don't want to do this twice. No one knows. We don't have a crystal ball. Rates are expected to come down over the next couple months, 6. But what if inflation kicks back up?
Right.
What if, right? So, pick a target, say, if I could get this rate, I'm happy with it. And then listen, if for some reason we do see 3% again or 4%, just do it again. I know it costs money to do it, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm telling you to do it.
No big deal.
Right. But I mean, if things get crazy and rates really, really, I'd hate for somebody to miss out, because the inverse can happen as well. What if you can get to 6%? and you say, I'm going to wait for 5, but 5 never happens. You're going to really be kicking yourself in the butt 10 years from now when, so nobody knows. The rule of thumb, like I said, it's take a look at it. If you could save a 0.5%, and it makes sense, costs are minimal. But once you get to a full percent, it's probably a good idea to do it.
I have a question on behalf of our listeners who won't know the answer to this question.
Yes.
Do you have to refinance through the same company that issued you a mortgage in the first place?
You do not. Absolutely not. In fact, some lenders, even lenders that I know that I compete with, don't offer refinances. It's the silliest thing ever. They just don't do them. I would absolutely... you could call other lenders. You could shop around. What I would advise against is finding a lender, let's say online that you've never heard of that, might promise one thing and then not deliver that and string you along for months and months. And, make sure you're working with someone reputable. I like personally, like in anything I do, I like a local representative, someone I could look in the face, someone I could talk to. Not saying all online lenders are slimy or anything like that, because they're not. But, I've had clients, that we've kind of swooped in and saved the day where they had just gone online and found some little mortgage company in Massachusetts that promised them XYZ and then failed to deliver.
Well, you've got companies out there that incentivize people to just go out there and write applications.
That's it.
Go out and get as many applications as you can. Doesn't matter. The facts don't matter. Whether they're approved or not don't matter. Get as many applications as you can, because in a numbers game, when you're dealing on a nationwide basis, you get 100,000 applications, they're guaranteed a certain percentage are going to stick. So they don't care. They write the applications, and that's all they're there for.
Absolutely. And once you get to a certain point, you've given all your information and you've started the paperwork, a lot of times people aren't going to say, oh, well, this isn't, they're not going to cancel and start over from scratch because they've already gone so far.
And it's a headache.
Yeah, it's a headache. I mean, it can be a headache, right? Obviously there's lenders that try to make it as easy as possible and as upfront as possible. And so just be careful, and the mailers are starting. So I have had numerous clients call me and say, Sly, I got this in the mail. What is this? And be very, very careful, because when that happens, a lot of times they'll reference your current mortgage company and they'll reference your loan because it's public knowledge. And you literally think you're dealing with them. So I get people calling and saying, Sly, what did you send me? What is this? And then here's where you can tell if it's legit or not. I always say, look at the very, very bottom of the letter. Read me the small writing. And it'll say, in regards to your loan with such and such, we are not affiliated with such and such. This is an advertisement or something along those lines, and it's in the fine writing. So I always tell people, before you sign up or before you call or anything like that, just make sure you're dealing with who you think you're dealing with, because these companies would love, and it's perfectly legal. They're not doing anything wrong because the disclaimer is there. But the general public, your general client, isn't going to realize that, oh crap, I'm not dealing with Sly anymore. I'm now dealing with someone else, and I've already started the process. So we get those calls all the time.
I don't want to take away from your message right now, but I want to point something that I think is really cool about you that is telling that you don't even realize you did. You said, my clients call me and ask me, blah, 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 blah. The fact that your clients feel like they can call you, Sly, a person, call you and ask you a question about something that they got in the mail really speaks to the relationship that you develop with your clients and the personal care that you put into each of the clients that you deal with, because I never, ever would have known that I could just call my lender and ask him a question about anything that I received in the mail or any question regarding finances or credit or anything. And it sounds like you get those calls a lot, and I think that really speaks to the business you do.
The doors on the studio are small. We can't have Sly going out with that big one.
No, but seriously, I do think that's cool.
Well, so, to the reason why that's the case is obviously we develop, I try my best to get on a personal level with everybody, and it doesn't always work out that way. People are busy. I understand. Sometimes they don't want to talk to you more than just what's your loan. But when it's goodbye time and we've already closed, I send everybody the same email and I say, look, I'm super happy you chose us. Here's what I can guarantee you. You're going to get a bunch of junk in the mail that's trying to sell you something that you may or may not want. And a lot of it's going to look like it's coming from me. And I even have little screenshots that I put in there that say, and I say, I want to be your lender for life. If there's any time you get anything weird or any kind of, thing that might just not look right, by all means, take a picture of it and text it to me. Here's my cell phone number. I can't tell you, especially first-time home buyers.
Sure, yeah.
When you bought your first, you got all the mail.
Oh my God, we got so much.
You need a warranty. You need this. You need that, and it's like all this stuff and it looks like it's coming from us. That's the part that I hate because they literally will put our logo on it. It's like so sketchy.
Wow.
But anyways, we try to make sure that I want people to know. I want people to make right decisions. And listen, if you want a warranty, by all means, here you go. But you don't have to have it. And or the other one that kills me is a copy of your deed. We'll charge you $90 for a copy of your deed. You can get it for $5 at the courthouse, but you don't need it. Yeah. There's absolutely nothing you need it for. So,
and you get a copy from your attorney too.
Yeah, it just kills me. But,
okay, so we are always talking business here. Kind of like we're all sitting behind the professional curtain of what we do, and we're always trying to educate the public and inform them and kind of share personal, business stories. But I want to do something a little bit different today. Because there are human beings behind everyone. And there's even human beings behind us.
True.
I want to talk a little bit about your trip to the Maldives, Sly, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
First, do you mind sharing? Tell us a little bit about the trip. And then I just want to kind of start diving into that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. No problem. So a couple of years ago, a friend of mine, moved there to start a business. He lived in Sri Lanka for a while with his family and had visited the Maldives many times and just fell in love with its 1,300 islands just south of India in the Indian Ocean, and just one of the most beautiful places on earth. So he moved there, started a travel agency, a travel business, and I was going to go last year on a trip to visit him, but I wasn't able to because I had some health stuff going on. And so then when the opportunity popped up this year, I was like the first one to say, yes, I want to go.
Is the Maldives, is it its own country?
Yes, it is. It is a sovereign nation of about 1,300 islands.
What's the population there? Do you know?
I don't
That's
know.
Okay.
I mean, there's
I didn't tell you there was going to be a test.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to guess, I don't even know if, maybe 1 million people, 2 million people, something like that. It's relatively small because most of the islands are small. There's a couple larger ones, but out of the 13, we visited 5 different islands, and the population maybe 1,000 people per island.
Okay.
The capital is a big city, right? And they don't have a lot of land, so what they're doing is they're sucking sand out of the sea and making new islands.
Oh.
What?
And
like Dubai does.
Yep, exactly. But I mean, like the island the airport is on in Hulamali is literally a man-made island.
Oh.
And 747 jumbo jets are landing on this thing, and it's pretty awesome. So very just the most beautiful place on earth.
Really?
When it comes to natural beauty, and if you like water, obviously you're in an ocean. So the bluest water I've ever seen, the most crystal clear water I've ever seen. Close to the equator, so it's very hot. So you better like heat. And tourism is really the main driving force behind their economy. It's a developing economy, I wouldn't say quite third world, but pretty like developing, right? So like, a lot of the creature comforts we have here where we're guaranteed if you turn the lights on, the lights will come on and not flicker, and air conditioning is working and toilets work and things like that. They're developing there, and
sorry. So speaking of the lights, what about hot water?
Hot water, there were days where the hot water would work and days where the hot water wouldn't work.
Were these the kind that the boiler is in the shower head?
Some were.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
some were, depending on where we were. But some of the more remote places are pretty, you're lucky if the hot water, works.
Now, were you staying in hotels? Were you staying in little inns?
Yep. So we did a tour, and so in the capital, they call them guest houses there. It's kind of like a hotel, but typically they're not like corporate owned, so it wouldn't be like a Holiday Inn or anything like that. It's somebody built a house that they live in and then put floors on top of it to have guests come in and rent. So very inexpensive. So that's mostly what we stayed in. We did stay one day at a resort, which was like world class.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable, all inclusive food. So the other thing is that's on the islands that are part of the Maldives, there is no alcohol, no dogs, and no pork products. So 3 things that are against the law, actually. So you don't see dogs. So there's tons of feral cats running around because there's no dogs to chase them. And then no alcohol and the pork products. So you get a bacon. It's
so
chicken.
No hot dogs.
No,
unless they were beef.
Well, hot dogs. Yeah, they have tons of hot dogs. They're made out of chicken.
Oh, you're kidding.
Chicken. They call them sausages. Very interesting. Okay. And tons of seafood. Obviously, they're, little islands and surrounded by ocean. So lots of commercial fishing. They eat just about any fish that's caught. That was abnormal to me. I went fishing a few times with locals, with guides or whatever. And pretty much anything we brought up, they're like, oh, yeah, that one's good. That one's good. And I'm like, are any of them bad? And never heard any bad ones. And they call them all tuna. Like when you're eating them, it's like, really? You're going to have tuna and rice. And it's like, that's not tuna. That's which, whatever. It is what it is. So
I wonder
lots
if that's
of
like one of
seafood.
those words that gets used interchangeably. Like I've heard that when you go down south, like soda, like you just say Coke and that means soda. Like you'll be like, can I get a Coke? And they'll be like, what kind? And you're like, Sprite. I
think that's exactly what it is they just call, whatever
all
fish
is
they're
just
eating.
tuna.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. That's funny.
Huh.
Yep. What were the people like?
Very, very warm and friendly and very inquisitive. They really want to know, what life is like in other places because, again, they have tons of tourists. And tourism is their main industry, so they treat tourists really, really well. We felt safe the whole time. There were never any times where I felt like, oh, man, I'm going to get mugged or whatever. And so, yeah, nothing like that. The craziest thing is everyone rides on motorbikes because it's a relatively it's a rich country in GDP, but like the people, there's a very huge wealth gap between the rich and the poor.
Sure.
So everyone rides around on these little scooters and there's no traffic lights. So you come and you're in a capital city. So you're talking, there's thousands of scooters going every which way. And you come up to a light and it's just like, okay, who's going to go? And it's like, whoever decides to go goes. And they all just kind of go. And then when you're walking, it's funny because they really, really value tourism. And you just start walking. Like you just walk across a main road and everybody stops. Like if you did it in Chicago, there's no way they would just blow on the horn and nail you. They wouldn't. Nope. The tourists have the right of way, and you just kind of walk across the road. And but back to the people. The one thing I did notice is so they have a lot of I don't even know how to explain it, but they basically get for the service jobs. They'll get people to come from other countries to work, and so a lot of people from Sri Lanka, a lot of people from India, Bangladesh, Nepal. So the waiters at the restaurants, very few would be Maldivians. They're usually. And I don't think those people are treated very well.
I was going to ask that. So is it looked down upon as a class thing to have that kind of job there?
I think so. I kind of got that. Well, and the Maldivians are in general the country, the GDP, because of all the tourists. I mean, it's considered a rich country. So I think there's a fair amount of social services. Where people don't have to take those kind of jobs. And a lot of,
so they have to import the workers.
Correct. I think so. That's what it seemed like, especially on the local islands, which are away from the capital city. Yeah. Most of the employees are almost like servants.
Interesting.
And very, very, but they're also very kind and very, where are you from? And you say Chicago and it's Michael Jordan, automatically.
Of course.
It's funny. That's all they know.
Is English ubiquitous there?
So English is their main second language. They do speak Diwali is the language there. Okay. But yeah, almost everybody speaks English. I'm almost positive, if I remember correctly, they actually teach it in school from a young age.
Wow.
So that's the second language.
In a tourist economy, you think that makes sense.
Yep.
Is it a tipping economy?
No, tipping is not required. However, if you bring dollars and you tip in dollars, they treat you like a king. I learned that very, very quickly.
Really?
I'm a fairly generous person, and especially I've been a bartender, I've been a waiter,
you get it.
I get it, and it's like especially if someone offers exceptional service, and there were times where it was these people genuinely cared about taking care of you and making sure every need was met. I always am a good tipper, and so if you $5 goes a long way when so their currency was called rupiah, and it's about 15 rupiah to $1. A Coke is $2, so 30 rupiah. Whereas, here a Coke is probably about the same. And this is in the capital city. Now, if you go to the islands, a Coke is $1. to some of the local islands. But everything is imported, so it does kind of cost a lot. So going back to some of these indentured kind of servant people, they earn about $200 a month.
Oh,
so you can imagine.
So $200 a month. So service probably pays well in the capital city, at least from the tipping perspective.
But people don't tip.
Oh, but they don't.
Typically not. Europeans don't tip, and it took us 30 hours to get there. So not a lot of Americans. Most of the tourists there are going to be from Europe, from Australia, from
not
China.
A lot of Americans.
So yeah, tipping isn't normal. It's just not a normal thing there. Like,
was there comfort? Like if you went into that hotel you talked about, you said it was world class.
Yeah.
Was it comfortable beds, comfortable linens, clean?
Yeah, the resort. I mean, they have resorts there that are $80,000 a night. Ritz-Carlton has a resort there. Yeah, right. Ritz-Carlton has the Four Seasons, and then like the local. And on the resort islands, they are owned by the resort. They are not owned by the Maldivians. The Maldivians government sells the whole island, and then guess what? You could have alcohol, you could have pork. So we ate bacon. You could have margaritas. So like it's only like where the government owns the land. That's where those laws are in place. But at the resorts, no, they have full. But they have bars and clubs and the whole thing. So I guess, and that was part of the neat, our friend that moved there is like, he knows all of this. So you need a guide. Like there's 1,300 islands. Like how on earth would you know which island to visit for what? And the cost difference is the beauty of, using a guide for a trip like that is like, when I scuba dived, I went scuba diving 2 times, and
were you already certified, or
no,
you had to get certified there?
I didn't. I did Discover Scuba 2 days in a row, which is where you go tethered with somebody.
Yeah,
and he took us to a place where it's literally the best scuba diving in the world, and I paid for 2 dives less than I would have paid if I would have done the exact same excursion at a resort. Because at a resort they charge way more. So. Yeah. Like I said, like if you go with someone that knows, and the transferring to get how are you going to get to these little islands? Well, there's speedboat transfers, there's non-speedboat transfers, which are slow boats. There's private plane transfers. Are
there ferries at all?
There's ferries, but it's you really got to know how to navigate. So going with a tour or with a guide that knows all these things,
right?
You didn't lift a finger. Someone came and grabbed your luggage, put it over here. You got on the boat. You went to this island, and someone came and grabbed it. And it was such a. You would never be able to figure all of that out on your own. So going with the guide is key. I have a good buddy that's what he does. So if anybody's ever thinking about taking a trip to the Maldives, scuba diving, world class, snorkeling, world class.
What do you see when you scuba dive? Are there reefs there?
Everything, yes. Some of the most beautiful reefs in the world. The first day I went, I kind of freaked out because there's a ledge that goes down like thousands of feet, and it's like open ocean, and I'm trying to like stay by the reef, but the guy keeps wanting to go like further, and we're holding hands, so he's pulling me, and I said, no, go up right now. He's like, no, you're okay. I'm like, no, go up right now. So we go up, and I'm like, bro, I'm telling you, don't put me near that edge. Like, I'm freaking out right now. Like, let's stay by the reef in about 20 feet deep of water. And that was day one. We saw you lose count of how many sharks you see. Mainly
really?
black tips and white tips. The longest shark we saw was about 5 feet. I think it was a bull shark. Oh. But they have hammerheads. They have whale sharks, which are the biggest fish in the ocean. They have tiger sharks are pretty popular there. Wow. The amount of fish and the beauty you see, and sea turtles, numerous sea turtles, numerous rays, eagle rays, manta rays, spotted rays, marble rays, like just chilling. It's an aquarium, literally like an aquarium. And
in the wild.
Yep, sharks in the wild, everything in the wild. You're just swimming with them. Day 2, I got more brave, and I actually went down. The maximum you could go at that level, beginner level, is 12 meters, which is just under 40 feet. I made it all the way down to 12 meters, so I was proud of myself without freaking out. I looked up, and I'm like, that's a lot of water above me, but I was able to maintain and just got a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
And then the snorkeling. The snorkeling is just
snorkeling is fun.
Unbelievable. You start at one end of the island, and you let the drift, the current just take you to the other end, get off on the beach, and walk back. So the natural beauty is really what the sell is there. Mm-hmm. just a great time, just a really great time, but it takes a long time to get there. So
you said 30 hours
between sitting in the airport.
Oh, so you had layovers?
Yeah. You're always going to have at least a 4 or 5 hour layover. One neat thing we went to our layover was in Doha, Qatar.
Oh,
that airport is like the nicest shopping mall I've ever seen in the world.
Wow.
Like cool. Literally multiple, like any
it's
brand, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, like, I'm literally watching a guy try on $240,000 watches in the airport. Right. I don't know if he bought one or not, but just really, really world class. Tons of restaurants, tons of cool stuff. Sleeping lounges, so you get your own like sleeping area if you're tired. Like just a really neat airport.
That's cool.
So beautiful time.
Awesome. So do you want to go into it at all?
Yeah.
And a little bit, because you were there to help set up a business.
Yeah, we were helping support our friend's business. The travel agency. Then another friend is in the process of working on building his own hotel there.
Oh,
he's a construction guy by trade, and also fell in love with a big scuba diver, big snorkeler. Fell in love with the island when he visited a while back. And so now he's in the process of working on partnering with other people there, locals there.
Is that a requirement?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I figured.
You and I couldn't just go, and unless you're investing, once you get to a certain level, they'll take your money, but millions, right?
Sure.
But otherwise, you got to partner with a local company, and so they're building their own hotel, guest house, 26 rooms. And it'll be ready September of 2025 on an island about an hour and 30 minutes away from the capital called Razdu. And
that's an hour and 30 minutes by boat?
By boat, yes.
Okay.
25 minutes by seaplane.
Oh, okay.
So they have little planes that stop there if you want. But yeah, by boat, it's about 40 miles. So depending on how the waves are and whatnot, it could be an hour, it could be 1 hour and 30 minutes. Because you're going on the open ocean. And on the way there, the waves were pretty rocky, and I thought I was going to get sick. On the way back, it was smooth sailing. So yeah, they're building a hotel. It should be ready September 25. I hope to be able to go back and check out the finished product and stay there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned something that caught me in the middle of that. You said you had done bartending and waiting tables and stuff. A lot of times people ask me, like, why do you work with the people you work with? Not in a negative way, like, oh my God, how do you work with them? No. Yeah. How do you choose the people you work with? And the answer is easy. It's I surround myself with people who are better than me at something or many things. And I think that's the key to my success is I don't need to be the smartest person in the room ever. In fact, I don't want to be. But I want to know the smartest people in the room. Yeah, I want people who know more than me in economics. I want people who know more than me in construction, in finance, and even Christin, you're a perfect example. You've got like a key that I don't have. Like you've got this in strength of empathy and this service-oriented demeanor. And what made me think about this is you mentioned, Sly, that you've done, waiting and bartending. And Christin, I know that's kind of where you came from.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about what brought, not necessarily what brought you into real estate service, but what do you think from your old life has carried over with you to this new industry that has made you who you are in this business?
Sure. Yeah. A lot of things. It's funny because the two industries, Sly, I think you can agree with me, they have almost nothing to do with each other, right? There's a huge difference between bartending and being a real estate agent.
I don't know. You both get yelled at all the time.
And we both end up dealing with personal problems of our customers / clients that have nothing to do with our
I think there's more in common than we think.
A lot of it does carry over, though. Yeah, absolutely. On the more challenging side of things, when you are a bartender specifically, but even just in customer service in general, your whole job is to make sure that everyone involved is having a good time, and if they're not, how to mitigate that, right? And that can go as far as dangerous situations when you're a bartender. There are potentially sometimes dangerous situations that come up when you're in real estate. It can be something like showing a home to clients that are currently occupied by a tenant who doesn't want to leave. There are divorce listings that you handle sometimes where one partner is trying to be a lot more involved in the other partner's life than the other partner wants, and you're representing that client. You're kind of trying to be the go-between. regardless, without getting into those specifics, you get comfortable handling confrontation is really the big thing, right? I'm never going to shy away from an uncomfortable conversation because you're used to having them all the time, whether you have to cut somebody off or tell somebody no to something that they didn't want, or, turn down an ID because you can tell it's fake or it seems like it might be, or whatever. You're used to handling problems in a professional manner because I've already had to do it so many times in my life.
So one of the things that I noticed is that in both industries, and I would say this might be the most common denominator, when you're waiting or bartending, you are on. Mm-hmm. No one cares what happened to you at home. Mm-hmm. No one cares what you went through before that appointment. Mm-hmm. No one cares what's going on in your life. When you're with that client or customer, you're on.
Yeah.
And I think probably no other business such as real estate, because we spend so much time. We spend multiple hours in a given day with a particular buyer client, maybe, that you're on for a long time. Mm-hmm. Do you find that to be similar between the two?
Yeah, absolutely. And not only are you on the whole time, because I know exactly what you're talking about, when you just have to answer your phone and turn it on. Hey, this is me. Hi, how's it going? Yeah, let's do this. Absolutely. But meanwhile, you're like on your couch in your pajamas. I remember once when I was like the sickest I had ever been with COVID last year. I remember answering the phone and just being like, hey, how's it going? Just like totally having to turn myself on the phone at least. So yeah, that absolutely exists. I can't tell you how many times in bartending I had a really, really challenging day. In my earlier years, when I was 21 in 1 minute, I had started bartending immediately. Mm-hmm. And that was a particularly challenging time for myself and my family. And I remember having to constantly just check it at the door and show up at work. And it was a nice escape, truly. But yeah, that is absolutely a skill that you develop. Another thing that I think really translates over for me personally is when you're in the service industry, you are acutely aware of the fact that you are responsible for your guests having a good time. And that doesn't just mean saying yes to everything that they want, but it also means helping them find what they want, right? Like sometimes they don't know what they want. Hey, what can I get you? I don't know. What do you recommend? All right, well, what do you like? So it helps you develop your listening skills. Yeah. It helps you develop your anticipation skills, because being able to anticipate what your guests need as a service industry employee versus having to anticipate what your clients' needs are in real estate, at least as an agent, is huge. Because a lot of times they expect that from you, whether they realize it or not. They expect you to be able to anticipate what they want, even if they told you something different. Mm-hmm. And so being able to develop that skill, I think, is really important to ensure that your clients are feeling heard and cared for and catered to.
And that's kind of where the empathy comes in. I once went to a seminar, and it was, I think it was from Joe Stumpf. Joe Stumpf's not really in it anymore, but he used to do real estate seminars. It was by referral only was his thing, and it was this thing I had signed up for. And he had an exercise, and I never really got good at it, but I thought it was brilliant. He said, the goal is to help your client find out the why. And the why is never determined after one question. Mm-hmm. Why do you want to buy a house? Well, because I want a place to live. Well, what's important about having a place to live for you? Well, it gives me some, I don't know, so I know, where I'm at and I've got some security. Oh, what's important about security to you? Mm-hmm. Well, because if I'm secure, then I'm not so stressed. So you don't, if you had less stress in your life, what could you do more of? Well, I could spend more time with my kids, my wife. And when you're spending more time with your kids and your wife, what does that mean for you? Well, then I'm happy. So you're not buying a house, you're buying happiness, right? And it was such a brilliant thing. And that's kind of what you're talking about, Christin, is helping the clients identify the why.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because a lot of them think they know what they want until they understand that it's not just that. There's more to it.
Because you show them what they think they want, and they don't want it.
Right.
And truly, the amount of distress on a client's face when they realize that what they thought they wanted is not what they want, and they're left with this empty feeling of, well, crap, what do I want? Is there even anything out there for me? And that's the moment where you go, well, let's discover what your why is.
And that's a big key. And I hate to circle this. No, I don't hate to. I love to. I love to circle this back. The kind of the point of buyer agency.
Yeah.
Is so many of our buyer clients don't know what they don't know at the beginning of the process. And they don't really know what they want. They know that first layer. And that buyer agency helps that someone, it's got to be a good agent.
Sure.
It can't just be someone who's looking for another, ring the bell another time, get another closing.
And I want to touch on that when you're finished with that point.
But finding that agent. And what I think this new process will lead to is buyers taking their time in determining which agents to hire instead of picking up some internet lead generation company and saying, hey, send me 5 of the cheapest ones out there.
Yeah.
Right? Is how important it is going to be for the buyer to actually interview agents and find out who they really want to work with. Because starting next week, there's no more calling me out of the blue or you out of the blue or anyone out of the blue and saying, hey, I want to see this house. We can't do that anymore. The new rules require that every time an agent shows you a home, you have to sign a buyer agency agreement. And there's going to be all kinds of different ways that agents will do this. And I know in our office, we're having a meeting tonight to discuss the way we're going to do it. But you can't just say, hey, show me that property, go out and show you the property, and if you like it, make the offer. No, you have to have the conversations up front. So that's important. So, Christin, you said you wanted to touch base on something I said there. What was that?
Yeah, I did. So you mentioned how, and Sly, I think you'll be able to agree with me on this one too. So you had mentioned how it's going to be...
I think it'd be funny if you didn't.
Yeah, right? You're like, no, you're wrong. But you had mentioned how it's going to be important to work with good agents rather than someone who's just, trying to just check off another box, get another paycheck, another one in the bank. I think another thing that I was really able to take from a lifetime of customer service, not just in bartending. I mean, I had my first job at 15 years old, and it's always been customer or client service based. Even when I worked in debt collection for a law firm, it was always about the people we were serving, right? And what I took from that, because I was never in a competitive, only in it for myself type of industry. It's also how I'm able to approach serving my clients. It's service that I'm providing them. It's their experience I'm providing them. The ego, it has nothing to do with my job, right? It's not about me. It's not about what I'm trying to accomplish for myself. It's what are you trying to accomplish and how can I assist you in accomplishing that? And that definitely comes from having a service or a customer service background as well.
Yeah.
Because there are, unfortunately, people out there in all types of industries, whether it be real estate agents or it be lenders or, you name it, there's always going to be people who are in it for themselves. And if it helps you, great. And if it doesn't, well, that's business. And that's just not how I do it, because that's just not in my training. It's not in my background whatsoever.
I mean, how many times do we get clients, who've, been through the ringer, spoken with, other people, and they might say something like, I really think my agent wanted it more than I do. Right? And you can't, everyone, and this you can definitely relate to, Sly, is that you can't want the deal to close more than the buyer does. They have to want it the most. And if they don't have that connection, I mean, all the work you do, all the pushing you do, yes, you can say, hey, if you don't do this by this day, you lose it. Sometimes the client actually wants to lose it.
Right.
And it's helping identify that and then being prepared to, if they pivot, well, how do we respond? Okay, because that's a different conversation. You don't want this anymore. Well, now we need to have a different conversation. How do we get you out with the least damage possible? And then that's obviously where in Illinois we bring the attorneys in to find out, well, what kind of situations or different kind of loopholes that we can find to make that happen for you. And depending on where you are in the transaction, sometimes that's easier than not. And I think that's the mark of a great agent in this business is the ones who, once they realize they want it more than the client, it's time to stop. It's time to stop pushing and have different conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And there's not a lot of opportunity for that when all of your training and background is customer service based, right? I mean, you're using different words for the same thing, but customer services, client services, as long as you are making sure that the people you're serving are at the forefront of what you're doing, you're going to enjoy what you're doing.
I got to say, I didn't know you were doing debt collection. Wow, that had to be. No wonder why you're so good on the phone.
Yeah.
So I wasn't.
That had to be a crash course.
I wasn't a collector. I wasn't one of the people calling. That was a different department.
Okay.
So I worked in client services. So I represented
Cool.
the people who had the companies who had debt owed to them.
Okay.
And we did a little bit of a lot of different things. You know, we were helping with like making sure that like judgments were being filed. We were doing like paralegal adjacent work as well. We were talking with we did all sorts of stuff, but because of that we learned all sorts of stuff too, right? So I've got like a wealth of knowledge of like the bankruptcy process and what happens to your debt when you pass away and all sorts of stuff. And when you work that job, you get a lot of access to people's personal information too. So, and I started working that job and I think I was young. I think I was like 22, 23.
Wow.
So I learned from a young age the importance of respecting clients' privacy even when you have access to all their information, which obviously transfers to doing real estate as well, because you end up knowing a lot of personal information about your clients and knowing the boundaries of what you can and can't share, and just being able to respect each client's personal story and their privacy. And treat each situation with respect, especially because in this industry, I was actually just talking to a client about this yesterday. In this industry, it's interesting because you end up getting calls from clients who are at very pivotal transitioning points of their life, right? You're either, you're getting married, you're having a baby, someone passed away, you're getting divorced, you're upgrading, you're downsizing. You call us during really important points in your life. And a lot of times those stories get shared with us, and we are able to develop a sense of respect for each and every person's situation and be able to approach it with a certain level of empathy while balancing out the business side of the transaction and sort of being that balance between the emotional state that they're in and also being the level head to guide them through the important aspect of what they're trying to accomplish there.
Very interesting. I know we missed our top of the hour break, but I don't have any problem with that. I think that was a great conversation.
Yeah.
We'll be back right after this break.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder and Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder and Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. At the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
This is Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Your favorite show right here on 98.3 FM.
98.3, The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3, The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3, The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. At the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3, The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity
is Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Welcome back to Unlocking Lake County with your host, Dick Barr.
And welcome back. This is Dick Barr here with Unlocking Lake County on Wednesday, August 14th. And here with Christin Kaufman.
Hi, friends.
And Sly Marinca.
Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back, everyone. So, yes, our show is a little bit different today. Taking a different approach, a little more introspective. I want you to get to know the people around me in my life professionally who help make me great, and they're great themselves. And I want you to know a little bit more about them, too, giving them an opportunity to add a little humanity to everybody in this crazy, divisive political war that we're witnessing around us every time we open up. What are we calling it? F-book?
Yeah.
Social medias in general, truly.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't use other social media. Yes, our videos go out on TikTok and Instagram, and but I never check them. I don't read them. TikTok, it's not really. You're not communicating with people on that, are you?
You can, absolutely. And
really?
even when you don't know them, you start to really feel like you know them when you follow them. Because people on TikTok, I really like TikTok, for the record.
But you communicate with the posters?
Yeah, you can, absolutely.
They communicate back?
Yeah, you can direct message, you can comment. The people who are really involved in their accounts, will absolutely reach out and connect.
I had no idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about Instagram? I don't see.
There's not as much connection. For me, my experience on Instagram, there's not as much connection. It's much more just likes and follows and
Right.
It's like influencers and that kind of stuff.
More aesthetics and stuff like that.
Yeah, interesting. I never got into even Twitter or something. I never got into.
I never got into
I
Twitter.
love Twitter.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay,
wow.
we're,
a lot of good
we're
stuff on
focusing
Twitter.
on you on this bit now. Okay,
Yeah.
tell me what makes Twitter. I'm going to give you my experience.
Yeah.
Okay, my experience. You go on Twitter, and I open it up the app, and then I'm seeing stuff from 3 months ago. I remember when Twitter first came out and was like, ooh, you're going to see live, real time, things that are happening everywhere in the world. I don't see that.
Huh. Well, it depends on who you're following. And if you're looking at the things you follow or kind of like the things that are for you. And I think a lot like TikTok, Twitter really is good at tracking your interests. So if you're into scuba diving or whatever, that's gonna pop up on your Twitter feed a lot more than Facebook. Facebook is just for people, and advertisements. To me, Facebook is all advertisements now.
Truly.
I use it for work, but I don't post a ton and I don't look at it other than for work. Because most of the biggest platform we use for work is definitely Facebook.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think Twitter and TikTok get to know you kind of, and they put things in front of you that are interesting. But it
do
also
you
depends.
Communicate with people on Twitter?
Not per se. I have you could comment and you could usually it's funny stuff or whatever.
But you're usually lost in a sea of millions of comments. Yeah. How could you track them? It's not possible.
Correct. So and as far as getting different viewpoints on different things, a lot of. I know you're talking about politics. A lot of politicians have a Twitter feed, and they will actually post so you could get it straight from the horse's mouth, not necessarily from a biased, part of the media. So for politics, for news,
I
like
hated
Twitter.
it for politics. So I'd be I would say something on Twitter, my political account, and you're worse than Satan.
Yeah.
Okay, person who I don't know who you are, and I'm almost positive you're not a constituent, and I'm almost positive you don't even live in the country.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I like Twitter, and I love TikTok. TikTok for me is pretty much anything you like, it learns, and you'll just see awesome stuff. I love fishing. There's regularly guys catching or girls catching, monster fish that come across my TikTok video, and I love it. I like it, or whatever. So just stuff like that. I really, really enjoy TikTok.
I've learned an infinite amount of information from just fellow people on TikTok who are in similar walks of life as me. A big thing that I got from my experience with TikTok is the concept of, and I know this makes people roll their eyes sometimes, but the concept of gentle parenting, right? I did not necessarily grow up or surrounded by a lot of people who used forms of parenting that I try to use with my children. So you get a lot of I think I'd mentioned it before on our autism diagnosis journey with my daughter, being able to use TikTok to follow speech therapists and to follow special education teachers and to follow occupational therapists, but also to follow autistic adults. So I could learn from their personal experiences of how they experienced certain things, how certain approaches felt to them when they couldn't communicate it as children, being able to follow fellow parents of autistic children and learn about their approaches and what works for them. And I can't tell you how many approaches I learned from that community on TikTok that have just transformed my relationship with my daughter and aided in her development too.
That's really cool. I do have a relatable story this morning relatable to that is I was on TikTok and sometimes I'll doom scroll.
Sure.
And I came across this video and it was a female comic and she comes out there and she just says, she says, I'm an autistic comic. And she starts doing her bit, and she says, she was kind of making a joke about how the fact that everyone accepts and knows that she's autistic, except her parents, right? And she says, I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I'm autistic, and he never stopped looking at his model trains, and he says, no, you're not.
And just like me.
So then she went to the mother and says, Mom, I'm autistic. And my mom says, don't look me in the eyes. And I just thought, relatable, because I think, especially people who know me and my little Lego obsession, I think I'm a little bit on the spectrum.
Sure.
Yeah, a little bit of ADHD at least.
Yeah, and it's funny how people try to differentiate the ADHD and the ASD, autism. There's so much similarity between the two that sometimes I just kind of chuckle when people get really bogged down on the details of the distinction between the two, because in my world there's just the umbrella of neurodivergence, and that's that. And it doesn't really matter where you fall. You just know that you don't have a neurotypical brain, and that things are just going to be different for you. It kind of almost doesn't matter at that point what the specific diagnosis is, as long as you're willing to accept that you understand that you function a little differently. That's just like the most important first step in being able to understand yourself and then be able to communicate some of your needs sometimes when something's not clicking that maybe it should be, and you're able to recognize, okay, maybe this is one of those things that I'm just not getting. Maybe I'm not totally right about this.
And I remember growing up, I always got the from my dad, don't be a moron, and and I hear what you're saying about gentle parenting. I don't know the full context of what you're talking about.
Sure.
I'm assuming, so I'm going to make some assumptions. What it means is the patience level I have with my kids is far exceeds my growing up. It was, it was far different world. A lot more patience with understanding it. My wife really helped me build that patience.
That's awesome.
And I got more and more patience as we got down the line, right? And I think so did my parents.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I was an adult. I was the last kid. I was the youngest. And it wasn't until I was an adult where my father's patience grew. And I think he had more respect for me as an adult than he ever had as a kid. He was the kind of guy, and Sly, you probably can relate, is, the scariest thing in the world to me was holding the flashlight while he's working on something. Am I right?
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Zero patience. Yep.
Zero patience. Like, you moron, shine it where I'm shine it here, shine it here.
Yep, absolutely.
And I've grown to have so much more patience with my kids, and it's more enjoyable. I think I enjoy my kids more than my dad enjoyed me as a kid. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's more opportunity to enjoy your kids when you are taking a more gentle or patient or whatever word you want to use.
Yeah, they're not afraid of me.
To replace disciplinary parent, right? Because not every action necessarily requires hardcore punishment or discipline when you take into account their neurotype or when you take into account their age and their development. Sometimes just sitting down and teaching them some coping skills is really what's going to help you get through, and then you're able to enjoy each other.
Yeah, and that was, my dad did not have different levels of anger. Based on the infraction.
Me neither.
Right?
0 to 100.
0 to 100. It didn't matter what the infraction was. The anger level was the same.
Right.
So, we knew if we're not home by 10 o'clock or we don't come in until 3 in the morning, exact same anger level and punishment. So it was like, oh, it's 10:01. I got till 3 now.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when it comes to stuff like that, that's where I think that communities such as TikTok really plays a nice role in our lives, because similar to what you guys are describing, and more so, I had a very authoritarian father who had obsessive tendencies and anger tendencies. And I knew going into parenting, okay, I don't want to be like that, but what do I want to be like? Right? Because that's a completely different story. When you're wiping the template clean and you're like, not that, what are you filling it in with? Right? And so being able to absorb content that helps replace those habits that you don't want with examples that you otherwise might not have had is really, really cool.
Yeah, I can see that. Sly, we're approximately the same age, right?
40. I turned 45.
21.
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah. What was your listen, this is getting personal.
Yeah.
Did you get corporal punishment as a kid?
Absolutely.
You did?
Absolutely.
Okay. How about you, Christin?
Yes, and then some.
Same, okay. Yeah. Same here. Yeah. And my dad used to say something, and my dad was a really witty guy. He was a very funny guy. I love my dad. Love him to the moon and back. But he used to say something, and he thought it was hilarious. Yes, you hit your kids every day. If you don't know why you're hitting them, they do.
Oh. All right.
Yeah.
And then he was also the kind that if you hit you and you cried, he would say, "Don't give me something. You want me to give you something to cry about, right?
Yeah.
Right."
Yeah.
And then if he hit you and you manned up and you didn't cry, then he hits you until you cry.
Right.
Jeez.
Same. And
Really?
Yeah.
I've actually, as an adult, really, really struggled with a lot of that once I had my own children.
It's triggering.
Yeah.
And it's like I couldn't treat my children like that. Like that's
Yeah.
like what you're hurting them like
Yeah.
internally, and like as a man, like you don't talk about that, like you just kind of bury it all. But like in my adult life, it's actually come up, and I've had to have some tough conversation with both of my parents, and kind of like, hey, like that wasn't cool, like what was up with that? And it's like
Absolutely.
that's how they were raised, and
It
that's
was.
how their parents were raised, and it just a cycle, right? And that's how you learn.
I really believe they did it out of love.
Absolutely.
Uninformed.
Yeah.
But they did it out of love.
Right.
And my dad used to say, he would, if I got hit, this hurts me more than it hurts you. That was something he said all the time. And I was like, pretty sure you're wrong.
Yeah, developmentally even, I'm going to challenge that, actually.
Right.
I don't think so.
But they didn't know better back then.
They didn't.
Psychology was different. Even child psychologists would advocate for, spanking your kids.
Right.
I remember a Woody Woodpecker cartoon where he sits down to read a book on child psychology. He opens up the book, and it's a cutout with a hairbrush inside, and you use it to spank your kid.
Huh.
It was in the media there. It was in the popular culture. It was expected. But, and now we've got a whole generation of Gen Xers and now millennials who are like, filled with all these childhood traumas and now I'm seeing... I don't know if I can say now I'm seeing, but you don't really hear about that anymore. You still see the occasional person in the supermarket just slapping the heck out of their kid when they're
but that's odd
tantrum.
now.
It is odd.
When we were growing up, that was a normal thing.
For sure. There was something that I saw once, though, because I grew up in a house that was very normal and common, and it's unfortunate, but obviously, as a parent, you're right. That triggers you sometimes when your kid is acting a certain way that you would have gotten hit for.
Yeah.
And those feelings are coming up in you, and you don't. And somehow you have to find a way to like absorb it, breathe it in, and then like breathe out love and patience. And you're just kind of sitting on those feelings. But something that really helped me with that, funny enough, a TikTok video, someone had said, if your kid is old enough for you to sit down and reason with them, why are you hitting them? And if they're not old enough for you to sit down and reason with them, why are you hitting them?
Right.
And that like immediately, not that I had ever considered it in the first place, because for me, that was a boundary that I was just never going to cross. Yeah. But that really solidified it for me. Sure. Because that's just not the parent I want to be. I don't want to be the parent that, one day kids don't come to because they're scared to tell me that they messed up because they're worried of my reaction as opposed to me helping them.
Absolutely. Love it.
Yeah, this show took a turn that we were not expecting.
Really
now we're all going to cry.
I know, right? This is a therapy session.
I do want to finish up my thought with just this, though, because you talked about generationally how you see a shift in parenting and what is considered the norm now. And I truly believe that a big piece of that is our level of access to each other because of things like social media, right? Because we're able to all connect and talk about our stories and go, yeah, that really wasn't cool. How did that affect you? Oh, well, I don't want it to affect my kid that way. And we're able to see examples of what we would maybe like to be, whereas we didn't have that in the past.
There's an extent to that I agree with, but I think that is also double-edged because now some rather what I would consider peculiar ideas also can propagate more because of social media.
Absolutely.
Things that would so now 100 people across the globe can say, well, that's a great idea. And now they're like, well, that's what they're trying to push into.
Sure.
So I think that's double-edged. But I hear you. Yes, there is, I think, access to communication. There's no question the world is becoming more global.
Yeah, of course. But, we talk about like our past generations and our parents, and we always say, what do we say when we make excuses for them? Well, they didn't know any better. That's what their parents taught them. That's what they knew. So they continued the cycle. And that continued and continued because that's all we ever knew until we had this wider range of connection with other people. And now it's not all we know, right? It may be what we experienced, but now it's not all we know. We have access to new approaches if we're seeking them.
But back in the days of the Donahue shows and the Oprah Winfrey shows of the 80s, people were starting to see more of that on television. And I think it started in the 80s. If you think about this is going to sound negative. When did the trophy generation start? It started late 80s, early 90s, and I think from all the different kind of perspectives being broadcast on television.
I don't think that sounds negative at all. I know that there's like a negative connotation with like the participation trophy.
Participation award.
Right, but really if you think about it, that starts from when did parents start advocating for their kids' feelings? And yes, the pendulum swings way in one direction after overcorrecting for another, right? But that's when advocating for their kids' feelings started.
Well, thanks for joining us on another episode of Dr. Phil. And we will be back next week with Casey Turry. Casey Turry is with Edward Jones, and she's going to come in and talk about financial planning and everything that you need to know to kind of protect yourself in volatile markets and blah, 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 all that stuff. Quickly, we will not be here in studio the week of the 25th, August 25th. We will be at a studio. We're going to be down at a real estate conference and learning some new information. We'll share with you when we come back. Anyway, thanks for joining us. It's always a pleasure. Have a great rest of your week, Lake County.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the heart of our community, exploring the ins and outs of real estate and meeting the people who make Lake County truly remarkable. Remember, every property has a story, and every community member holds a key to unlocking our county's full potential. Don't miss out on discovering more hidden gems and expert insights. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday at 12 noon for another episode of Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr. Until then, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and keep unlocking the possibilities that await you in Lake County. Thank you for listening, and see you next week.